The British used to take pride in their ancient heritage, but heritage isn't used to pay heating bills. In 2026, millions of Britons suddenly woke up. How can we survive when wages are 45% lower than in the US? Taxes are being tightened until 2031, the NHS is facing long wait times, and the government is going bankrupt? This is not a random incident, but rather a possible result of top-tier bureaucracy. The American dream did not beckon. It was the reality of England that drove them away. In this video, let's take a look at 10 cities that are turning into ghost towns due to this wave of mass migration. Let's start right now with London, where the million-dollar matchboxes are empty. Welcome to London in 2026, where you have to spend up to £351 per square foot just to own a matchbox measuring a mere 656 square feet, about 60 square meters. But the absurdity doesn't stop at the narrow walls. What truly drains the hopes of the middle class is fiscal drag, the mechanism of the frozen tax trap. The British government has locked the basic tax threshold at £12,570 and the higher 40% tax threshold at £50,270 continuously until 2031. Let's look at the story of a 29-year-old software engineer in London. Every time he receives a small pay raise to offset inflation, the tax system automatically pulls him into the 40% tax bracket. The harder James works, the thinner his wallet gets. Do you find it fair that striving for success is punished with income tax? Just when he was toiling in helplessness, he looked over at his former colleague who had moved to San Francisco. In the UK, his engineer salary stagnated at $63,000 a year. In the US, the equivalent position earns up to $28,000, even exceeding $12,000 for managerial roles, along with stock bonus packages that could change his life. Living in London in 2026 is like paying for a luxury suite but receiving a closet that charges you for breathing. The outcome is incredibly bitter. James and thousands of young talents have quietly bought one-way tickets to America, leaving behind expensive studio apartments empty in the heart of the capital. If you find this financial analysis hitting the mark, please like and subscribe to the channel to not miss the next surprising economic data. London is witnessing the most alarming brain drain in history. But what will happen when even the holy grail of Manchester football is being overthrown by entertainment culture right in its own backyard? Let's move on to the next city. If you ask what is the most oppressive thing in Manchester, the answer is not just the relentless drizzle that clings to the skin year-round, but the suffocating confinement in the way people entertain themselves. For decades, Liam's weekends, a 32-year-old diehard fan, have revolved around squeezing into cramped pubs, reeking of stale beer and mildew before the match kicks off. The prices of Premier League tickets have skyrocketed to unreasonable levels, but in return, all you get are outdated infrastructure, cramped parking lots, and poor service. Then, the 2026 World Cup in the USA appeared like a cultural shock straight into Liam's mindset. For the first time stepping across the Atlantic, he was completely overwhelmed by the sun-drenched tailgating culture, thousands of people gathering, grilling fragrant beef, raising cold beers, and singing freely right in the massive parking lots of the grand stadiums. The US doesn't just sell a game, they sell a whole dynamic outdoor entertainment complex. The harsh truth is that the English took hundreds of years to invent football, but the Americans only needed one tailgating party to teach the people of Manchester what real entertainment is. This psychological turnaround made Liam and thousands of fans realize how much they craved a lifestyle that combines sports with vibrant music. As a result, the most passionate fans are not just traveling, they are urgently completing immigration procedures to move to the US to live near the sports clubs. The areas around the sanctuaries of Old Trafford and Etihad are gradually falling into an unusually quiet state every weekend because their souls have flown across the Atlantic. What do you think? Is the sun-soaked festival atmosphere worth giving up the persistent rain of Manchester? But if Manchester is gradually losing its sporting soul, in Birmingham, they don't even have enough space to park a car. If you take the money from selling a cramped, outdated row house of less than 1,000 square feet without a central air conditioning in Birmingham to the US, what will you be able to buy? The answer is a suburban mansion of up to 2,500 square feet in Texas or Georgia with a sun-drenched private pool and a garage spacious enough for 3 muscle cars. A true shock in terms of size. Let's look at the bitter reality of David, a skilled 5-year-old mechanic in West Midlands. Every day, he wearily returns to his cramped, suffocating house in the dreary urban planning, lacking green spaces and never having a proper parking spot. Birmingham's traditional manufacturing industry is in severe decline, but the cost of living continues to suffocate his family. Meanwhile, the stark statistics crush any delusions of grandeur. The average home size in the U.S. is 2,299 square feet, 2.8 times larger than the modest average of 818 square feet in the UK. Indeed, in Birmingham, a garage is a luxury. But in Texas, a garage is just a place to temporarily store a lawnmower and a few guns. The boom in advanced manufacturing and renewable energy in the U.S. is welcoming highly skilled craftsmen like David, offering them good salaries along with extremely reasonable suburban living costs. A sudden reversal occurs as the West Midlands faces an alarming rate of skilled labor exodus, turning the once bustling machine shops into silent spaces shrouded in industrial fog. If you were David, would you choose to stay in the cramped red brick house or fly to Houston to own a private pool? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to help the video spread even more. When the Birmingham factory shut down, the historic port city of Liverpool faced an even more bitter tragedy. The friendlier you are, the easier it is to be discarded. There is a bitterly ironic paradox happening in Liverpool. The famously open, warm, and humorous people of England, the Scousers, are being trapped in a dreary, decaying, and isolated urban space. Looking at the story of a 5-year-old female consultant who grew up by the banks of the River Mersey. She loves the warm community spirit here. But the prolonged economic downturn has squeezed her family's disposable income, which always falls below the national average. The persistent cold rain and the closed urban architecture gradually extinguish any desire for outdoor connection. The truth is that Liverpool's weather is so cold it can freeze even the warmest hospitality, which is why people have to move to Texas or the southern states of America to find warmth. When she first experienced the warm welcome of Southern Americans and the sun-drenched BBQ parties in the backyard, she realized that the extroverted spirit of Liverpudlians only truly flourishes when there is a suitable living space. This psychological breakthrough triggered a silent yet intense wave of migration. People are willing to sell off their old properties along the banks of the Mersey River, gathering deposits to buy a one-way ticket across the Atlantic. As a result, the historic Albert Dock, once a proud symbol, is gradually turning into a desolate urban area, with only the sound of waves lapping against the empty hulls of ships remaining. What do you think about the trade-off between nostalgia for one's hometown and a living space filled with joy? And if Liverpool loses its warm, working-class residents, the real disaster for England would be when the most outstanding intellectuals at Oxford and Cambridge also decide to switch sides. Did you know that the real wages of university lecturers in the UK have dropped by 25% since 2009? The starting salary for a university lecturer is capped at a very modest figure, £40,761, approximately $52,923 per year, and is completely non-negotiable due to the extremely rigid administrative pay scale. England boasts universities that are 800 years old, yet pays its professors like fast food store managers. Looking at the situation of Dr. Julian, a talented artificial intelligence researcher at Cambridge, he has to struggle in under-equipped laboratories, submit countless funding applications that are continuously cut, while struggling to pay his monthly rent. The bureaucracy of the British education system is in stark contrast to the massive influx of capital from private funds and tech corporations in the US. Looking at the Ivy League schools or research institutes across the ocean, a newly graduated assistant professor can easily earn over $100,000 a year, own a state-of-the-art laboratory, and have the freedom to commercialize inventions into million-dollar assets. The bitter turnaround occurred. Dr. Julian and a host of brilliant minds in AI, biology, and medicine all pack their bags and move to the US. The outcome is that the two ancient bastions of knowledge have fallen into the largest brain drain in Oxbridge history, leaving behind the ancient Gothic buildings covered in dust. What do you think about the injustice of intellect being undervalued by outdated management thinking? If you find this analysis insightful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to spread the video. The top minds have left, so what will happen to cultural heritage cities like Edinburgh when their only source of income from tourism is also threatened? Let's explore it right away. Remember the image of over 50,000 Scottish fans flooding the streets of Boston during the recent 2026 World Cup. They were not only surprised by the Heritage Night at Fenway Park, but also because the Boston authorities mobilized all the yellow school buses to transport them completely free of charge. This cultural clash struck a chord with the long-standing pain of the residents of the Scottish capital. Look at Callum, a 8-year-old tour guide in Edinburgh. Even living amidst the enchanting and romantic Gothic beauty, Callum's and countless other young people's opportunities for advancement are trapped in a single industry economy. Most jobs revolve around seasonal tourism or short-term services, while the biting cold from the North Sea continuously ravages mental health. To put it bluntly, Edinburgh is great for taking an Instagram photo, but a nightmare if you're looking for a decent-paying job. When they arrived in Boston, the people of Edinburgh were astonished to realize that this was the perfect upgraded version they had always been looking for. It possessed the charm of old European architecture while operating on a booming American economy with a focus on finance, specialized healthcare, and top-notch education. The demographic shift occurred immediately after the tournament. Thousands of young people from Edinburgh simultaneously applied to migrate to the east coast of the United States. As a result, the historic cobbled Royal Mile is facing the risk of a demographic collapse, gradually turning into a hollow museum city solely serving transient tourists. What do you think is a beautiful city enough to keep young people when there is no economic future? Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next in-depth analyses. Goodbye to the beauty of Scotland, we head to Belfast, where a divided history is being healed in an unexpected way, thanks to the compatriots across the ocean. There is a very special paradox. Belfast, a city still struggling in the slow process of reconstruction and burdened by historical prejudices, holds the strongest get-out-of-jail-free card for its people to flee to America. Looking at the circumstances of Sean, a 26-year-old young engineer born in Belfast, he has to face the bitter reality that the average income here remains stuck in the lowest group in the UK, while job opportunities in the high-tech sector are as rare as the morning fog over Belfast Bay. Young people like Sean not only lack material resources, but also feel suffocated by outdated social barriers. The bitter truth is, in Belfast, the past is a burden, but in America, that very past is a first-class ticket to a job. Because the people of Belfast possess a priceless asset, the Ulster Scots bloodline heritage. The Great Migration of the 18th century nurtured an extremely powerful Irish-American community, spanning from politicians to major economic corporations in the United States. The dramatic turnaround occurred when moving to America was not a perilous survival adventure for Sean, but a journey back home in the supportive embrace of his compatriots. The Irish-American community is always ready to provide sponsorship, from legal procedures and housing to fair job opportunities. It is this immense social capital that has triggered a wave of young intellectuals bleeding out, causing Belfast to increasingly fall silent and sink into the slumber of old memories. What do you think about the power of this transoceanic blood connection? If the weight of history drives people away from Belfast, then in Newcastle, what drives people away is an invisible enemy, the never-ending winter. Imagine having to live through a long, dreary winter with a gray sky, struggling to bear the burden of expensive energy bills, only to suddenly discover a place with over 230 sunny days a year and a 0% personal income tax policy. That's not an illusion, but a reality shock when comparing Newcastle with the state of Florida in the USA. Looking at the situation of Callum, a 8-year-old supply chain manager in Northeast England, the decline of the traditional port industry has devastated the local economy, but the bitterest part is the heating costs that drain his wallet for 10 months each year. The people of Newcastle are not migrating because they hate England. They are migrating simply because they cannot afford to heat their homes year-round. The truth is, Florida is emerging as a true rescue paradise. Not only does Florida provide abundant sunshine to chase away winter depression, but it also boasts fuel prices that are only half of those in Europe and an enchanting 0% income tax rate. The complete turnaround occurs when the open, free-spirited, and party-loving nature of Newcastle residents finds perfect integration on the sun-soaked beaches of Miami or Tampa. As a result, residents are lining up to make one-way trips to America, leaving behind the once bustling entertainment areas along the River Tyne, which are now cold and desolate under the salt mist. Are you ready to trade rainy, cold days for beach sunshine and a 0% tax? Leave behind the chilly winter and come to Leeds, where people flee just because they're fed up with the medieval shopping experience. Imagine the scene where you have to fumble with each button to pay for expensive parking by the minute, squeezing through a series of small shops just to gather enough weekend essentials in Leeds. Then suddenly, you step into a massive Costco or Walmart supermarket spanning thousands of square meters in the US, where you can pick up everything from fresh beef to a camping boat all in one building. A completely astonishing contrast. Looking at the real-life experience of a 3-4-year-old financial expert who always values convenience. In Leeds, shopping is a test of patience, as the fragmented and cumbersome retail infrastructure drains his family's limited time. The harsh truth is, in Leeds, shopping is a test of patience, while in America, shopping is a leisurely stroll on a cart the size of a Mini Cooper. The one-stop shop wholesale model in the US has brought a real convenience shock, helping families optimize up to 80% of their shopping time, save on bulk purchase costs, along with vast free outdoor parking and astonishingly easy return policies. The shift in consumer mindset happened immediately. Oliver and many residents of Leeds realized that their hometown retail system was outdated. They are willing to leave the foggy homeland for the US to settle there, just to seek convenience and prosperity in every small daily experience. As a result, the once iconic glass-roofed shopping centers in Leeds are now sparse and devoid of shoppers. Do you prioritize nostalgia or maximum convenience for family life? Leeds is losing customers due to small supermarkets, but the final destination, York, is where the ultimate deadlock of living space is witnessed. Imagine trying to maneuver a muscular Ford F-350 pickup truck through the narrow medieval shambles alley in York, which is less than 2 meters wide, without scratching a single paint streak. It's not just a humorous image, but a symbol of the ultimate deadlock in living space. Looking at the situation of Ben, a 30-year-old young engineer who loves freedom in York. Owning a personal car here has turned into a real nightmare as he faces narrow streets, outdated planning with a severe lack of parking, and the local government's harsh emissions restrictions. Ben and former York residents are forced to accept traveling by public transport or cramped, confined hatchbacks. Completely contrasting with that confinement is the call of freedom from the 6 to 1-2 lane interstate highways in the US. Here, the dream of a muscle truck culture is nurtured, where the vehicle is not just a means of transportation, but a symbol of freedom to conquer vast spaces and the ability to tow a mobile home to explore magnificent national parks. Not to mention, thanks to optimized taxes and supply chains, the price of a new car in the US is 20% to 30% cheaper than in the UK. The York authorities want you to ride a bike in the 2°C cold to save the planet, but the people of York choose to go to Texas and drive an F-350 to save their own freedom. This psychological shift has driven the youth to leave their homeland, turning the once bustling Shambles Street into a deserted shell. Will you choose to endure the stifling antiquity or hit the gas and drive your dream pickup truck on the road to freedom? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the next in-depth analyses. The journey through 10 cities from London, Manchester to York has painted an undeniable picture. The United Kingdom is collapsing under a profound systemic crisis. The wave of ghost towns emerging is not due to natural disasters or random accidents, but rather the result of long-term accumulation from bureaucracy, tax traps, choking workers, aging infrastructure, and management policies detached from reality. When city councils are drowning in debt and cutting the most basic services, the people of England realize that a legacy of thousands of years cannot be used to pay heating bills or buy a decent living space. In that context, America is no longer the romantic dream on Hollywood screens, but has become the most practical escape for each individual to rediscover the true value of their labor and the freedom to take control of their own lives. If you wake up tomorrow and realize that your youth is being eroded by frozen tax brackets extending until 2031, what will you choose? Accept staying in your hometown, enduring the confinement to preserve nostalgic values, or bravely holding a one-way ticket across the Atlantic to write a new chapter for the future yourself? Especially viewers watching the video from the US. What do you think if one day the BBQ parking lot is filled with enthusiastic British friends raising their glasses in celebration? Please leave your comments and opinions right below so we can discuss together. If you find these independent and in-depth analyses valuable, please give the video a like, share it with your friends, and hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell. Your interaction is the greatest motivation for the channel to continue producing in-depth reports that uncover the hidden aspects of the global socio-economic landscape. Please note, all content in the video is compiled from report data, local press news, and independent economic analysis perspectives up to 2026. The video is created with the purpose of providing information, analyzing phenomena and policies objectively, and does not contain any investment advice, legal consultation, or official immigration guidance. Dear audience, please refer to official sources and consult experts before making important personal decisions. Thank you for joining us in today's video. Goodbye and see you in the next decoding journey.